What is Pragmatic Semiconductor? It's a world leader in flexible chip technology.
The mission for Catalyst is very, very straightforward. It is to find very high growth companies that are going to have a meaningful impact.
If I think back 15 years ago, we had a founding team of 6 of us, as you say, operating in a lab.
So I look at the savers in the fund benefiting from the returns, but also benefiting to local economies as well.
It's 5 years of Catalyst, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring one of our portfolio companies along with Ciaran Mulligan, who heads up with PruFund, to come and have a bit of a real-life look at what the Catalyst Fund has been up to for the last 5 years and using Pragmatic as a background example of what we've been up to. My name is Niranjan. I head up the Catalyst Fund at M&G, and I'm delighted to be here at Pragmatic Park in Durham.
I'm Ciaran Mulligan. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at M&G Life, so I'm responsible for the investment strategy of the £134 billion with-profit fund, which includes the £70 billion PruFund range of funds.
I'm David Moore, CEO of Pragmatic Semiconductor, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you both here to Pragmatic Park in Niranjan. Not your first time here, but welcome back, and Ciaran. Welcome to the site of the UK's first ever 300mm wafer fabrication, first ever flexible chip wafer fabrication in the world. You can see behind us is one of our Pragmatic Flex Logic lines. Just this 20 by 30 meter fab is capable of producing billions of flexible chips per year. You will hear a little noise because it's actually up and running as we speak. We're shipping in initial volumes to customers, and so busy at work with that.
And I'm Richard Price. I'm CTO and co-founder at Pragmatic Semiconductor. Thank you again to the Catalyst for the support over the last several years.
Thanks, Richard. And just on that, I think the mission for Catalyst is very, very straightforward. It is to find very high growth companies that are going to have a meaningful impact on the way we live and the future of the world, and bridge that kind of scale up capital gap and provide patient long-term institutional capital to these companies while delivering strong financial returns to our investors and delivering real world impact. I'm very, very fortunate to have the support of the With-Profits Fund that allows us to take a long-term view, support the scale-up of really generational businesses, and then get them to a point where these businesses have the opportunity to grow into real meaningful, large, global behemoths. And Pragmatic is one of our portfolio companies, really excited about it. And we are at an exciting point in the Catalyst journey, because with a proven track record, we are now opening up Catalyst to external investors. And with that, Ciaran, I'd love to hear your perspective on how Catalyst fits in within the PruFund.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thanks, Niranjan. I think the key thing I take from what you said there is the timescales. If I look at the purpose of the With-Profit Fund and PruFund, stripping it right back, what it's trying to do is provide a help in retirement for those people who are saving towards retirement or in retirement funding a lifestyle that they want. And that immediately leads you to believe that that is a long-term investment strategy. It's a long time period that we're investing over, and we're not driven by short-term market movements. We're not driven by short-term reporting cycles or governance. It's really trying to invest over the longer term. And what that means to me is that we can invest through cycles and over multiple cycles. So we're not allocators of short-term capital. I think when I look at the investment strategy, we're looking out over 10, 15 years to try and actually generate those returns for the savers in the fund. And that immediately lends itself to investing in businesses that themselves are going through a growth cycle and multiple phases of that of growth. And it's a great example here in Pragmatic in terms of watching the company develop over time through Niranjan's interface with you guys and seeing the benefit that then the underlying savers in the fund can have because we're aligned in that long-term view.
Yeah, and that's critical, right? Because so much of the value creation in some of these high growth companies is happening in the private markets. You want to capture some of that value creation for your savers, and we become almost the vehicle that allows you to do that, and one of the vehicles, money vehicles. But it's an important shift in how markets are working and where value is getting created. And clearly, this is an area of high focus going forward as well. But Dave, over to you. Can you talk a little bit more about Pragmatic, and then we'll also hand over to Richard to talk about where we are and what the future plans look like for the business.
Yeah, no, I'd be glad to, Niranjan. I guess, as a quick intro of the company, what is Pragmatic Semiconductor? It's a world leader in flexible chip technology. We were founded in 2010. Richard obviously is a co-founder and CTO today. What we do is we develop and manufacture world-leading, ultra-thin, flexible, cost-optimized, and highly sustainable semiconductor technology that enables us to bring it into all kinds of exciting high-growth applications. Headquartered in Cambridge, but obviously very proud to be manufacturing up here in the northeast of the UK, where we're hosting you today. As I said, site of the first ever 12-inch wafer fab in the UK, but I think most importantly, really a first of its kind in terms of 12-inch flexible IC manufacturing.
That's great. And Richard, I mean, you were the co-founder of the business. You would have seen the evolution of the business from where you started this process in a lab to where we are sitting here today. Can you describe kind of what the journey's been like, where you see yourself today, and what the future holds for this technology?
I mean, looking back, it's incredibly surprising. I'd say, where we are, we're sat in front of our first 300mm manufacturing line here. But if I think back 15 years ago, we had a founding team of 6 of us, as you say, operating in a lab. We span into the University of Cambridge, and then we grew from there. From those first 6 people moving into pilot production at a facility close by to here in Sedgefield. And then for the last several years, it's been moving into high volume manufacturing. Semiconductors have become, hot news around the world with all the geopolitics. But also, it started from a concept of, can we make simple electronics that can really be deployed anywhere? And that's been part of the mission, and that's guided us in how we've developed the technology and moved it into manufacturing. And a consequence of those choices, as Dave mentioned, is that we have something that's very cost optimized, but also very sustainable, and we can manufacture in very short order. So cycle times, we measure in days rather than months, which is typical for semiconductor production. And it allows us to have compact modular manufacturing, even in a kind of facility like this, which used to be a conventional industrial site making plastic pipes. We could put in a state-of-the-art, fully automated semiconductor line.
Thanks, Richard. And one of the more interesting parts is kind of what our involvement has done. I mean, clearly, I've kind of laid out our tent saying what we really want to do is support businesses like Pragmatic, really scale from kind of out of the lab into the real world, and then continue to kind of expand product portfolio, expand kind of geographic expansion around the world.
Yes.
And kind of serve different clients, different customers, and different needs. Pragmatic's technology is very well placed to do all of that. But what does our capital really help you guys do? How does it help you execute? What else do we bring beyond capital? Would love to hear you.
Yeah, I can let us piece, and then Richard can weigh in too. I think, like as Richard said, like the company's been on this amazing journey of technology, innovation, first of a kind breakthroughs over so many years. I joined the company just 3 years ago from a career in the silicon semiconductor industry. And what we're doing is truly unique and certainly standing on the shoulders of giants in terms of where we are today. And if you look at our Series D raise, which we were so tremendously excited to partner with M&G as a co-lead on, obviously that capital raise being the largest at the time in semiconductor European venture.
I'm told it still is.
It is, yes. It depends on the currency conversion rate we use at the time, I think, or something like that.
I think you can take that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so that was what we were very proud of. Obviously, 70% of that funding came from UK sources, which, I think is an incredible proof point of, the importance of being able to really look at scale-up industries here in the UK and support those. But I think fundamentally too, look, it goes beyond the capital. Certainly, as Ciaran talked about, the long-term view of these things. Semiconductors, quite often, even with our cycle times and our amazing ability to ramp fabs within kind of, 12 to 15 months, as opposed to many, many years for silicon, it still takes time to build these things up, to build these markets. We've got tremendous worldwide customer demand, but I think that long-term view is incredibly important.
It's the long-term view, it's the patient view as well.
Absolutely.
Because obviously that asset, the investment is there. It gives you that confidence to actually go and invest and actually grow the business, because it's patient capital.
Absolutely, Ciaran. And then beyond the capital, we were delighted to have M&G and you yourself, Niranjan, join us on our board. And that provides more than just an investment view. I think, M&G brings a broad strategic view. Hopefully it's been a fun journey for you too in terms of learning about the technology and our exciting markets, but for us too, being able to benefit from the insights, the breadth of, across sectors, the strategic insight that's brought at a board level has been incredible as well. So thank you.
No, I think I agree with you. I think for me, and Ciaran, I've shared this with you often, one of the most exciting parts of the job is actually working with people like Richard, who've kind of revolutionized and come up with a modality which does not exist before, and then working with people like Dave to take that into the real world and have real world impact. but there are lots of strategic decisions that need to be made. There are lots of very difficult, fine choices that need to be made in terms of capital allocation, in terms of talent, in terms of kind of customers and how you deal with customers as customers become more complex and their needs become more complex. Those sorts of discussions and providing M&G's input as an institutional investor into those sorts of decision-making processes is, I think, one of the most exciting parts of the job that I do, and working with kind of amazingly talented people. And it's great to see when we start seeing visible progress in the real, and it is one of the most fulfilling things. But you touched upon, David, the UK aspect of this technology, this business, and the scale up of this business. Both of you were involved in the process of kind of choosing this as the site for your first manufacturing facility, putting a kind of fab here in the Northeast. Can you talk about that, the decision making there, and kind of some of the advantages of working in this region?
I mean, maybe Richard, you take the lead, and I can fill in on some more recent aspects of it.
Yeah, I mean, to be truthful, when I first came around here and saw the state of the site, I was like, this is too much. But actually, I think it speaks to a lot of what we just talked about. So UK companies can often be accused essentially of setting their ambitions at a level of what they think they can achieve rather than what is truly possible if you really sort of strive for that. And I think one of the things that Catalyst and the last investment round has allowed us to do is actually think, beyond the next several years and much further out, and map out the roadmap of what is possible and how we really realize as much value as we can for our shareholders, but also for our employees and customers. I think this site actually speaks to that. There is so much potential here. We're occupying less than half of the space. We have open space within the existing building to expand. That's very easy to demonstrate to suppliers, the partners and customers, the potential of how we can continue to grow. And then outside that, we've got even more space, and that's just in the Northeast here. So for me, I think actually it's a good metaphor for what we're trying to do as a business, that there's so much more potential of what we can develop over the next several years.
The only thing I'd add on that is, we're headquartered in Cambridge, so we are taking advantage of the incredible intensity of innovation that represents, but then be able to parlay that into the Northeast, where you've actually got a really deep heritage of industrial expertise and talent, and a lot of semiconductor manufacturing talent. We have people here at the site who have 30 years plus experience in the semiconductor industry. We feel like the company is in a really good path in terms of the ability to scale. Like Richard said, the fact that this is an extinct ceramic pipe factory, 16,000 square meters. We have room. Each of these fabs behind you here is capable of producing billions of flexible chips per year. And so we have big ambitions. We've got global customer demand, the opportunity to continue to scale here, and as we move forward internationally as well.
And Ciaran, then how does this resonate with you in your role as CIO of the With Profits Fund, you representing savers, and this investment being part of your portfolio?
If I look at the portfolio again and what it represents, the savers in the UK, and what we're trying to do in public markets and in private markets is try to identify, great pockets of potential here in the UK and overseas. And I think in Pragmatic, it's a great case study of what we've achieved together. The investments, it's real people saving for their retirement. They could be based in the Northeast, they could be based in Cambridge. And yes, they have ambitions and goals that they want to achieve in retirement, a lifestyle that they want to fund, but they're also contributing to a community, to an economy, through innovation, through UK growth. So it's a really great example of what we can achieve if you have the right tools, if you've got great companies, if you can find the companies and actually have the patient capital to invest. So I look at the savers in the fund benefiting from the returns, but also benefiting to local economies as well. And I think that's a really powerful message.
That's amazing. And I think innovation is seen as very much geographically limited, and innovation in manufacturing seen as very geographically limited. And this is a great example where you can actually scale this up and make it multi-jurisdiction even within the UK. And we're really, really proud to kind of push that with Pragmatic. But one of the more interesting things that kind of you touched on, and Richard, you've been, as a co-founder, you've seen the evolution of this business. We in Catalyst invest in technology scale-up businesses, and we all, between us, recognize that it's very hard to scale first of a kind, first of a generation, new technologies. Can you both touch on your experience of kind of what the challenges have been like, where we are today, and what do we have to look forward to? Can you just give us a sense of kind of what the journey's been for you both personally?
Sure. Yeah, you start, Richard. I'll
I'll
fill
take
in.
the easy question and then you can follow, Dave. That's
Glad
good.
to.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, Niranjan. There are challenges scaling a first in a kind. And for me, actually, as CTO, some of those are interesting. They may be less interesting for other people in the business. We're solving problems. The difference as we move from the lab and pilot scale into high volume production is they're generally engineering problems as opposed to the kind of deep scientific discovery. So a lot of that is around the discipline of engineering, design of experiments, and sort of running through that. With the last investment that allowed us to expand our capacity here, that's brought additional resilience and capability here, and it's allowed us to move much more quickly through that problem-solving phase. Sometimes it's the surprising things that seem so simple that catch you out. I've found that quite often, that it's not necessarily the kind of complex, clever part of the process you think is going to be difficult. It's something relatively simple. But somebody said it to me earlier this week, semiconductor hardware is unforgiving. You've got to make it work end to end. There's no way to kind of fudge yourself around it. It either works at every single step or it doesn't. And it's really difficult sometimes to see that when you're working through some of the challenges. But also on the other side, it's incredibly satisfying when you get through that and you see yields going up, performance improving, and the team really do sort of take their energy from that as well.
Yeah, no, I'll agree, Rich. It's never a dull moment, as you know, Niranjan. I think there's an element too of being extremely fulfilling when, you're doing something that is challenging. We also think too, that means that all of the years of innovation and the amazing progress we're making now in terms of ramping into high volume manufacturing, it's obviously creating a lot of value as well. But I would just touch on too, you don't get great things done without great people. And so a big focus too over the last years has been building on the amazing co-founded team that Richard built in terms of the technology expertise. I like to joke, Richard and some folks have forgotten more at lunchtime about thin film technology than I learned in a lifetime. But then also too, right, bringing in some other folks with the industry experience of scale up, some of the semiconductor industry more broadly, and bringing that together, growing the team here in the Northeast, creating jobs, obviously, but obviously too, building up a really strong capability and flywheel effect for the region, and I think for the UK as well.
I think what both of you said actually is quite interesting, because my own journey has been quite interesting with Pragmatic. I've seen it go from a promising piece of technology with huge markets that it can go after, evolving from there to actually seeing that technology kind of being manufactured at scale behind us. And then that leading to customer engagement where customers are now kind of using this technology in their products and are excited about it. And now are coming back to you and saying, hey, can we do this, this, and this? Or can you develop this roadmap on the technology that allows us to do these many more things? That is super exciting.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can see kind of the thesis that we had 3 years ago, where you take a piece of technology that you believe has potential, and then you scale all aspects of it from a talent perspective, from an organizational capability perspective, from a manufacturing perspective, and then meet customers and their needs. And then customers get excited about where you can take this and
Absolutely.
how it can help them.
Absolutely.
It's an exciting place to be.
And the opportunity is massive today for the technology in terms of that customer demand. Now shipping in initial volumes to those customers, obviously extremely fulfilling and exciting for them. But I think too, the work that Richard and team are doing in terms of developing and advancing the technology, that's a huge piece of investment too, and where that goes as well, because it's not just about scaling capacity, it's about opening up ever new opportunities and advancing the market opportunity for the technology. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, and that would be great if both of you can give some examples of where we are and what we do today, and what are some of the exciting things in terms of applications, so people can actually kind of make this real in their lives. That'd be amazing.
Do you want to kick off?
Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, so we're currently on our third generation of technology that we've deployed in high volume manufacturing. So we've developed on that platform our own chip designs. This is in what's called near field communication, or NFC. This is the technology that all of us carry around in our pockets and our smartphones. So when you're doing things like contactless payments and so forth. And that particular product, due to the ability for us to make it at scale, to make it cost optimized and very thin, we can deploy pretty much on any object around the world, and allows consumers to interact with products, to get information about how to use it, how to dispose of it, to drive loyalty campaigns and other things like that. We're also seeing legislation coming through in Europe, and then that's going to go around the rest of the world on digital product passport, and that's increasing the rate of acceleration of NFC. And then as we build on that into the future generations, so Generation 4 is an optimized version of Gen 3, allows us to make smaller chips, so we get more of those on a wafer, and we add new features that allows our customers to start to program information onto the chips, and they can take a little greater control of their inventory. And then Gen 5 is a real revolution. This takes us into the world of what's called CMOS. So those steeped in semiconductors will know all about CMOS, but essentially this is the way that silicon technology moved from the late 70s and opened up the design space to people doing fabless semiconductor designs and so forth. And we see that as a huge transformation for us as we move from selling our own products into allowing other people to design on our technology, and we manufacture for them as well. And then there's other kind of adjacent opportunities that are coming through, intersecting with some of the trends in advanced packaging. So sometimes called chiplets, and not in the kind of advanced AI GPU space, but more in the wearable healthcare devices like continuous glucose monitors, hearables, AR, VR headsets, and we're the interconnect that allows you to put other components together, but where you need to do flexing or bending or space is a premium, and we're adding more functionality into that space as well. And that's something that 2 years ago wasn't really on our sort of roadmap as a sort of application space, and may well be, an even bigger opportunity than the NFC space.
That's amazing. What are customers telling you, Dave?
They're saying, give us as many as you can, as quickly as you can, Niranjan, which we're working well to do. I think that what they're saying is that a lot of these markets, there's silicon out there, sometimes fulfilling the opportunity, but quite often, and the opportunities we're most excited about are where the thin, flexible form factor is just unique. And so there are things to do, like Richard mentioned, AR, VR wearables, where you've got these constrained spaces to integrate, electronics and circuits in ways that just aren't possible with other technologies. And they're really, really excited about the opportunity to be able to innovate. Actually, our vision is to empower our customers to innovate, bridging that physical and digital world for a more sustainable future, because not only can we afford them that ability to do things that just aren't possible with other kinds of chips, but we can do it with an order of magnitude lower carbon footprint too. And they're very excited about that.
That's great. I want to end this discussion by kind of asking each of us, I'll start, of what we're most proud of. If I start myself and kind of lay the groundwork, what I'm really proud of is what we've been able to achieve together over the last 3 years. It's not easy to take a piece of technology that works in a lab and then make it real in the real world. There are many stories of kind of that translation failing, and I have seen you guys do a tremendous job, and to be part of that journey is something that I'm really, really proud of. But I'll hand over to all of you, but at the end, Ciaran, if you could wrap us up with your views on...
I get some time to think, do I? Good, okay.
That'd be great.
Well, for me, there's so many things I'm proud of, but I'm most proud of the team. I think, like I say, you don't get great things done without great people. And I think the team has rallied, has faced challenges, has innovated every step of the way, but really has continued to come together to bring to life something that is just really unique and is really exciting. And so, yeah, that's what I'm proud of a lot of things, but fundamentally the team and how they've done and grown over the last years.
I'm most proud, I think, of the culture that we built. So we just had our 5th technology conference in Cambridge this week. I look back at the energy and the engagement of the people in the room. I think it speaks to how we go about doing our work, how we collaborate, how we look out for each other. No organization is perfect, so there's always areas where we can improve, but I think that's a reflection of the way we built the company, the people that come in that add to that, and we adapt the culture from there. But that for me is one of the biggest strengths of Pragmatic.
Yeah, for me, I think just listening to Richard and David, it's just proud of the fact that we're involved in this journey. I think if you take a step back to the fund that we run again, the with-profit fund and PruFund, it's trying to connect that patient capital to what we see in the UK as there's a really abundance of potential in the UK. You just have to find it. There's so much potential in terms of startup companies and growth companies and companies in different sectors. When you provide that patient capital to businesses right the way through from innovation, idea generation, through manufacturing, and you see the growth of those businesses and the success of those businesses that you have in some way enabled, and tying that savings capital to those growth, so they're part of the local economy, so they're part of the actual UK growth story. I think it's a really powerful message that PruFund has, and I think Pragmatic here is a really great example of that in action.
And we wouldn't be able to do it without you. I think all of us, all three of us, can say that I think your vision and the with profits kind of flexibility that it allows and the scale at which you operate at allows us to kind of support these companies and allows us to kind of execute on helping these companies genuinely scale up. So I think we are really proud to be in the service of all the savers that you represent, and hopefully we will kind of make sure that we will deliver strong returns here as well. And with that, I would say thank you to all of you for taking the time to speak to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niranjan.
Thank you.
Thank you.